how it accelerates here. That's pretty good. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're gonna be going over a Volkswagen Golf R with a manual transmission. But first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Ford Lincoln here in Draper for giving me some time with this Golf R. They have tons of cool used inventory like this Golf R, so definitely check out their used inventory. And then yes, they're a Ford dealership, so they've got all the new Fords as well. This is their backlot if you guys are wondering. Well, let's get into the video. Under the hood of the Golf R, we have a turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder that goes through a 6-speed manual transmission. Power outputs are 315 horsepower and then 310 pound-feet of torque. Now let's go over the front end of the Golf R. So first off, you just have the normal Golf hood, and then coming down below, you've got the full LED lights with the LED accent lights that go around them. You've got the regular Volkswagen logo. You do get a little tiny R logo, parking sensors here in the front. And then the rest of the front end, I mean, this looks pretty similar to most of their Golfs, GTIs, all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty understated, but I mean, it's good looking. Over on the side here, we've got two 35mm tires wrapped around 19-inch wheels in the front and over in the rear as well on the Golf R. And other than that, I mean, you guys can see here from the side again, things are pretty simplistic. It has that normal hatchback type look. I do think the wheels look really good with the car, how they did that 5-spoke design. But yeah, other than that, there's really not much else for me to mention from a side view perspective. Ooh. Now let's pop into the rear hatch of the Golf R. So first off, you already have a cargo cover built into the car, and you've got the floor mat covering. You do have some extra storage underneath, nothing too crazy out of the norm. The one thing I did notice though is this hatchback is pretty tall, but it's not super deep, and that's all for the rear. Now coming to this part of the back, notice that you've got the spoiler there on the top, again, pretty understated, and then you've got the normal Volkswagen taillights you get with all of the Golfs, more parking sensors here in the rear. You do get really cool exhaust tips out either side. I think that's definitely a nice design touch. But other than that, I mean, you take away the exhaust tips and it pretty much looks like every other Golf. Here's a door panel on the back of the Golf R. So first off, you got this blacked out trim here at the top. Then you have padding here where you're actually gonna rest your arm. And then here are the seats. So you can see you've got all the stitching throughout the seats. And then you've got the rivets here in the center portion. And yeah, it actually pops up pretty nice. So you get some nice support there on your thighs. But let's actually pop in. So stepping in, got to duck just a little bit. Headroom is really good here on the Golf R. Actually, I'm 5'11". Legroom's pretty decent. Again, it's a smaller hatchback, so it's not gonna have a ton. And then you got some vents back here, and this pulls down to be an armrest with some cup holders, and that's the back of the Golf R. Now here's a door panel at the front of the Golf R. So again, you've got the blacked out trim right here, and then you've got the door handle just in front of it with your mirror adjustments, window controls down below, and then more padding where you can rest your arm. And then here are the seats at the front. You've got the R logo right there. You've got all the rivets in the center seats. Bolstering's actually pretty nice here on these seats, definitely soft. You've got all your adjustments there on the side of the seats, and then again, you've got your 3-pedal layout. Light controls just up above. Sorry, the sun just completely destroyed the camera. The steering wheel is manually adjustable, and there's one more look before we pop in. Here's our steering wheel in the Golf R. So you've got leather wrapped around the whole steering wheel with the stitching on the center. You've got an R logo right there, and then you've got like your phone controls over here, voice command controls, and then over here on the other side, you've got the controls for the cruise control system. Other than that, things are pretty simple on the steering wheel. It's pretty open, large design. And then notice you've got the stalk for the lights and the turn signal, and then you've got the windshield wiper stalk on the other side, and that's all for the steering wheel. Now here for the center stack, you've got the RPMs on the left side. Over on the right side, you've got the speed, and then you do have that screen there, which you can scroll through a couple different menus to give you different bits of information on the car. Most modern cars have something like this. It's cool that it has a lap timer, because again, it's the Golf R, so it's supposed to be the sporty version. But other than that, that's everything for the center gauge cluster. Here's the center infotainment system. First off, we'll pop it into reverse. You guys can see the backup camera. And the backup camera does pop out of the logo, which I think is pretty cool. You can actually hear it happening in real time when it pops up. But again, you've got parking sensors in the front and in the rear as well. And then you have the trajectory lines on that. And then once you pop it back, the backup camera will pop back in after a little bit. As for the rest of the infotainment system, you've got all these shortcut buttons here on the sides, which, I mean, none of this is too crazy. I mean, it's relatively easy to use, and then it is a touchscreen as well. And I remember this car is a few years old now, so it's not necessarily the most modern system, but I mean, it gets the job done. Now down below here, we've got our climate controls. It does come with the dual zone climate. I love how you have capital OF and then you have a lowercase f for off. I think it's funny. Heated seats here for the front, and then you've got this little thing which you can basically cover up. Extra storage space in there. Here is the shifter for that 6-speed manual transmission. And then you got your engine stop start button, and then we do have the different drive modes, your stability control, and then the parking sensors. As for the drive modes, you just press that, and then it's going to pop up right there and tell you which drive mode you're in, but it also pops up on the infotainment system and tells you which drive mode you're in. We're gonna start in comfort, and then we're of course gonna go over to the race mode later in today's video. But yeah, that's the drive modes. Got a couple cup holders here, and we've got the parking brake with the auto hold, and that's really good for manual transmission so you don't roll down a hill. And then you've got a 12-volt, pretty normal center console, and then opening up the glove box again, lined with felt, pretty normal. And well, that's all for that part of the interior. Now up top here, we do have a sunglass holder and then all black headliner, and I mean, other than that, things are pretty simple at the top. Now that we're done going through the interior here on the Golf R, let's quickly get into the pricing. So in terms of pricing, most of the Golf Rs are anywhere from the high 20s to low 30s, depending on mileage and transmission and condition and all that kind of stuff. If you want to see the most up-to-date price on this particular Golf R, again, go check out the inventory in the link below. This car has 62,000 miles on it. So yeah, check it out. And oh yeah, let's go see how it drives. Let's talk about visibility before we set off here on the Golf R. So first off, visibility of the hood is really good, just like most other small hatchbacks like this. There's your visibility through both the mirrors. They do have blind spot monitoring. And then here's throughout the rest of the rear, which again, I mean, it's pretty much just like any other hatchback. And that all being said, first gear, let's set off. Well, we are setting off here in the Golf R, and as promised, we are, well, let's go back into the comfort mode. So we're in the comfort mode to start things off, and we'll be in the comfort mode for about 2 seconds because, well, that's no fun. We'll drive mostly in the race mode. But first thing I'm noticing is this definitely feels pretty luxury. It's out of the hot hatches I've driven so far this week, this one definitely feels the most, I guess bougie is the best way to put it. It's really smooth, like definitely the smoothest out of all of the cars I've driven so far. It definitely feels the most refined. That's a good way to put it. So if you're looking at the hot hatches and you want something that's a little bit more on the luxury side, then that seems like that's what the Golf does. Okay, now that we've talked about the luxury stuff, race mode. You guys knew that was coming. Okay, now we're kind of getting up on the road here a little bit more. Thing I do want to mention is the shifter is pretty notchy. Throws are pretty normal though. Like if you're, any manual transmission car pretty much feels the same as this shifter wise. And blippability is kind of weird. So the pedals are close enough that you can heel toe, but it doesn't seem like it's the happiest to blip with the throttle, which is kind of interesting. The Subaru WRX STI so far has been the easiest one to blip. And then that Civic Type R obviously had the auto blip. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit too close. Back the seat up a little bit. Guess I'm taller than the last person that drove this, but just a little bit. So we are up here on the highway with the Golf R, and this is just to show you guys kind of the ride quality. We'll get acceleration in just a little bit, but it actually rides really smooth here on the highway. It's not an issue whatsoever. And when you are on the highway, if you do want to downshift a little bit, kind of test the blipping again, yeah, it's decent. I feel like the STI was a lot easier to blip the throttle than this. That flat four just kind of like blipped super easy. And then obviously the Golf, or not the Golf, getting my cars mixed up. The Civic yesterday, that one had the auto rev match, so I mean it kind of was a different thing. And the pedals, you couldn't even do heel toe with that, so that was a completely different situation. Yeah, it's okay. Once you get used to it, it's pretty easy to blip. It just definitely takes a second. This has a little bit more of a learning curve with the blip. And that's what I've noticed usually with most inline fours, is they usually don't blip as easily as flat 4 cylinders. See how it accelerates here. That's pretty good. Wow. I actually got a little bit of torque steer there. That is interesting. I did watch a couple track reviews of this, and they said that this does kind of understeer, torque steer a little bit because it is front wheel drive based, and I definitely felt that. This definitely feels turbocharged. Feels like nobody's home below like 3,000 RPMs, and then as soon as you hit 3,000 RPMs, then it really starts to pick up. There's like a huge difference with this car below 3,000 RPMs and above 3,000 RPMs. But let's get into setting things up here with the Golf R. So first off, the styling definitely understated. So if you want something that flies under the radar, this definitely is going to fit the bill with that. And then from the interior, definitely really nice interior. The seats are very comfortable. They look nice. This definitely feels more like a luxury hot hatch than anything else. So again, kind of like I said at the start, if you want something that's more luxury, then this is going to be the car for you. It's definitely not as like race car-y as the other ones, if that makes sense, that I've driven so far. Like the STI and the Civic Type R definitely felt more race car-like. The Civic Type R, the most race car-like. This one feels the most luxury-like. So it seems like they make a hot hatch pretty much for every situation. I mean, this particular car is in really good condition. I'm surprised. I mean, 62,000 miles is quite a bit, so I expected to see a lot more wear and tear on the car, and there's not. So, I mean, if you are in the market for a Golf R, this one that the Ford dealership has is actually really nice. And again, check out the price online, and that should be pretty much it. Oh, I forgot to mention the brakes. They feel pretty normal on the car. It's a light car, so you don't need crazy brakes or anything like that. That is going to sum things up for our video on this Volkswagen Golf R. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Schmiller Ford Lincoln here in Draper for giving me some time with this Golf. Again, go check out the inventory in the link below. I'll see all of you in the next video.